Tonight, new signs of an economic slowdown in the era of rising interest rates. Hard data on a softening Canadian economy.
The real growth has been very flat.
From retail to real estate, the financial road ahead. The expanding hazard of record-breaking heat.
Abnormally hot, abnormally difficult conditions to work in.
Searing weather setting off a summer of extremes. Plus, a Canadian bodybuilder breaking down barriers.
Good. Come on. Push through.
The inspiring journey of Kyle Landi as he flexes his way to a massive following.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, John Ehrlichman.
Good evening. There are fresh signs tonight that Canada's economy is starting to feel the sting from higher interest rates. New numbers show that the economy contracted last month, down 0.2%. That's the first time we've seen that this year. By comparison, the economy grew 0.3% in May. The cool down comes as Canadians battle borrowing costs at their highest level in 22 years. CTV's Kevin Gallagher starts us off tonight.
At the launch of Montreal's new commuter train, the Prime Minister insists Canada's economy is on track, despite some setbacks.
In a time of inflation, where we're glad we're seeing inflation come down, and supply chains disruptions and war in Ukraine, there are challenges around the world on getting big projects done. But if people keep at it, they continue to step up, we can and will continue to deliver.
Though today's Statistics Canada data tells a more uncertain story.
We saw a pretty negative wave of economic data for June across almost all facets of the economy.
The economy contracted in June after devastating wildfires hurt the energy sector. Production dropped for the first time in 5 months.
Oil and gas extraction activity actually declined by 3.6% in May.
In May, striking federal workers returned to the office, and strong manufacturing numbers driven by improved supply chains helped grow the economy, though less than expected. Some of this economic slowdown is by design, as the Bank of Canada has increased rates to a level not seen since 2001, boosting borrowing costs for Canadians.
We've been effectively trying, or the central bank's been trying to engineer a slowdown for some time, so perhaps this is the beginning of that, of that occurring.
While inflation has come down significantly, demand for housing remains strong in May. What is falling, though? New construction.
One of the predictable outcomes of higher interest rates is builders build less.
So an economic slowdown could be a good thing for those struggling with the rising cost of living, though the Bank of Canada will still review data in July and August before making its next rate decision in September. John?
All right, thanks, Kevin. And as the economy cools down, many parts of the country are heating up. High humidity and soaring temperatures contributing to wildfires, drought in the prairies, and severe weather in Ontario. CTV's Heather Butts reports.
Crews in the Northwest Territories are desperately trying to gain the upper hand on a fire burning out of control.
We saw the fire take a 20-kilometer run in less than 2 hours, and it came right to the doorstep of the community of Béchacon.
That fire has already consumed more than 114,000 hectares and is just 45 kilometers from Yellowknife. It has destroyed homes and burned over critical highways. Firefighters have made progress in recent days, but this is just one of the 137 fires burning in the territory.
We've seen 5 communities evacuated. We've seen dry, drought-like conditions in many regions of our territory, and that's led to fires that are burning more intensely and more difficult to put out.
The record-breaking heat making it even tougher for those in the line of fire.
Firefighting is an incredibly difficult job, and it is every single summer, but this year, of course, it's been very, very hot. That adds to things like fatigue and the like.
The scorching temperatures leading to drought in parts of Western Canada. Saskatchewan's agriculture minister is now looking for federal support for livestock producers.
We're just doing our assessment now. We have to do the needs assessment along with the federal government.
This hailstorm hit Ottawa today, the high humidity this summer triggering severe weather, even spawning tornadoes. A confirmed touchdown in southwestern Ontario Wednesday.
You almost couldn't even really hear the branches just from the wind noise. When that tree got pulled out in the backyard, though, you could feel the house shake when it hit the house.
In the U.S., nearly 150 million are under heat alerts. As the number of heat-related deaths increases, one medical examiner's office in Arizona has brought in refrigeration units to be used as a morgue. Analysts have said the cost of heat-related deaths and reduced quality of life from extreme heat in Canada could cost nearly $4 billion a year by mid-century. Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
There's no official word yet on the financial damage in Nova Scotia's recent torrential rainstorm and floods, but the province estimates the figure to be in the tens of millions. And while costs are being calculated, residents are still picking up the pieces. CTV's Atlantic Bureau Chief Kristen Ashkate reports.
A small memorial for the victims of last weekend's deadly storm has appeared at a monument in Brooklyn, Nova Scotia, just a stone's throw away from where crews are looking for a teenager still missing.
Until every search area and every search zone that's been identified has been thoroughly covered, we're going to continue searching.
For residents, the cleanup and the uncertainty doesn't look like it will end.
It's a scary event. The fire department told me afterward they were afraid we were going to go down the river.
Alan Moulton and his wife woke up to knee-deep water as their home floated across their yard. They lost almost everything and they do not have flood insurance. Friends have now set up a GoFundMe page.
I don't know what I did without them, to be honest with you. I think I would have gave up.
Through the chaos, stories of generosity are everywhere.
I think we all felt a call to just do something.
These two families are hosting a backyard yoga fundraiser for the families who lost their loved ones, with a goal to raise $10,000.
I feel like most of the community is still in that fight or flight mode where there hasn't been time to fully process on a deeper level what's happened.
In Lower Sackville, people's livelihoods laid bare on their front lawn, but neighbors are helping where they can.
My neighbor lent me his generator and, I've been lending pressure washers and squeegees and stuff like that for cleanup.
Donations are already coming in so people can enjoy this baseball field once more.
We've raised close to $10,000 just in the GoFundMe. We've had several other people reach out and just provide financial assistance.
And on the infrastructure side, almost 500 sections of road and the only rail line to the Port of Halifax have already been repaired. The province's premier says the cost could be well over $100 million. John.
Creason, thanks very much. And flooding, a concern in Montreal this morning when a major water main break forced evacuations, damaged streets, and submerged vehicles. The gushing water flooded basements and knocked out power, leaving more than 75,000 people under a boil water advisory. Montreal's mayor is calling on other levels of government to help update the city's water systems.
Because, again, the city of Montreal, we have the oldest water plan, infrastructure in Quebec, one of the oldest in Canada.
City officials say the pipe that burst was slated to be replaced in 2026. Police say a body found in the St. Lawrence River earlier this month is connected to the investigation surrounding the deaths of 8 migrants. The man was identified as 30-year-old Casey Oakes, who had been missing since March. His boat was discovered near the bodies of 2 families that police believe died while trying to illegally cross into the United States. And the discovery of a man's body from a Montreal canal has led police to close a double murder case.
This man was wanted by our investigators as an important witness.
Investigators say the suspect was married to a 56-year-old woman found dead along with their 12-year-old daughter in this house early yesterday. Marine searches were conducted after the family's car was seen parked near the water's edge. And crime in Canada is on the rise again for a second year in a row after a notable decline at the start of the pandemic, according to new numbers from Stats Canada. Violent crime reported by police across the country has reached its highest point since 2007. And among the provinces, nowhere worse than Manitoba, which recorded the largest increase. Bureau Chief Joe Makashon explains why.
What the people of Winnipeg are already seeing on the streets has been confirmed in crime statistics. A record 53 homicides in 2022 has pushed the city to the top of the violent crime index.
Parts of Winnipeg have one of the higher crime rates in North America.
Community advocate Sel Burrows says much of the crime is driven by youth and much of it is centered in Winnipeg's inner city.
We had a 12-year-old charged with assault. We have a 14-year-old charged with murder and a 15-year-old charged with murder in the last month.
Lack of community resources and supports is pushing kids to violence and crime. Addiction is keeping people in that terrible spiral.
I went to jail for 10 months.
Devin Churko says meth addiction fueled his criminal past.
If I didn't have money, I needed to steal things to get it, and I wasn't one to steal stuff, but I didn't really see any other options.
He's now getting help through Winnipeg's Moorburg House, and so are many others.
All right, so I will come and see you on Monday.
Michelle Wesley once used and sold crack cocaine. Now she's finding Winnipeg's addicted housing and health supports.
We're definitely not doing enough. There's not enough focus at all on addiction.
The problem's here magnified, but crime is up across the nation. The largest increases in Manitoba, Newfoundland, Labrador, Quebec, and Prince Edward Island. New Brunswick, Yukon, and Nunavut saw an overall drop.
The link between violence and poverty is something that has been around for years and years, and so we need to give individuals in those situations some hope.
In a statement, Manitoba's government said it is working to address unacceptable escalating crime rates, promising more security when advocates say it's the social problems governments need to focus on. John.
Okay, Jill, thank you. A BC mother who lost her only son to suicide says police did not act despite her complaint about a man selling so-called suicide kits online. It took more than 2 years and dozens of cases abroad for Kenneth Law to be arrested. CTV's John Woodward has that story.
The online shop Escape Mode offered breathing regulators and masks, products that could be used to self-harm. And 21-year-old Jaden ordered something called the Premium Stick-Soft Kit in early 2021, right before he died by suicide.
Just want to see him.
His mother, Isabella, found Jaden's emails with the website's Kenneth Law on his phone. She went to the RCMP in Langley, BC.
I went to them 2.5 years ago with information about Kenneth Law and his website Escape Mode, and they did nothing.
More than 2 years later, police in Peel region laid 2 charges of aiding and abetting suicide against Kenneth Law and warned he had sent some 1,200 products from Escape Mode and other websites, including sodium nitrite, to 40 countries. In that time, records and reports suggest at least 11 deaths connected to products sold by Law, the youngest just 17 years old. Police have also reopened death investigations in at least 9 other cases from Canada to New Zealand.
It absolutely shocked me that Canadian police knew about Ken Law that early.
In the UK, David Parfitt's son Tom died after using one of Law's products in October 2021. He wishes Canadian police had acted earlier.
I believe that people like my son are very likely to still be here.
Law has denied the charges and says he's not responsible for how people use his products. Law is just one seller. In the U.S., several states and now the federal government are looking to limit sodium nitrite sales.
We've got to stop these kind of individuals. And it's particularly mind-blowing, just, it's a quick buck, so to speak, and just wreaking havoc on these families.
Health Canada not looking to limit the sale of sodium nitrite here, saying when used properly, there's little risk. Parfitt believes the products should be regulated and any website that sells them blocked. John Woodward, CTV News, Toronto.
Mutinous soldiers that led a military coup in Niger have installed a new head of state following the ousting of the first democratically elected president in more than 60 years.
Nigériens, mes chers compatriotes.
The head of the Presidential Guard declared himself as Niger's new leader. There are concerns the coup jeopardizes the Western fight against Islamic militants and that Russia's Wagner mercenary group may try to form an alliance with those behind the takeover. The Russian military claims it shot down a Ukrainian missile over a southern Russian city 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. This is the aftermath of the blast that Moscow says injured at least 15 people. The alleged attack prompted Russian forces to retaliate, striking civilian buildings in the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Kyiv says at least 9 people were wounded. Time for a break, but when we come back, an update on Team Canada's fight for an even playing field. Canada's women's soccer team is gearing up for its next game at the World Cup. Off the pitch, the athletes announced a new deal with Canada Soccer following a long labor dispute. While the federation calls it an important step forward, the team says the new contract is not cause for celebration. CTV's Melanie Nagy explains.
While at the FIFA Women's World Cup, Team Canada has not only been pushing for match wins, but equal pay and more support from its governing body.
Every single player in this tournament deserves the world and deserves the, equal treatment.
Today, after several public appeals and months of negotiations, the players finally reached an agreement with Canada Soccer.
It certainly is a step forward, but not a fulsome step.
In a statement shared on social media, the women announced a deal regarding compensation, including World Cup prize money. They also said it's interim, only covering 2023, and they're deeply disappointed to find themselves without a more complete agreement.
It is very unfortunate that this deal only covers 2023 because we're mainly over the season.
The players pointed to Canada Soccer's financial troubles as to why the arrangement is provisional, but were quick to add that it ensures their pay matches the men's national team.
I think the men's team is helping because they're unified in this respect.
Like the women, the men have also been embroiled in a labor dispute with the organization. They claim they still haven't been paid for participating in the 2022 World Cup.
Go Canada!
At this year's event, despite the controversy, the women have managed to maintain a strong position in the group stage.
We've just got to be prepared for everything and be ready to fight to go and get that win.
Team Canada must now beat or tie Australia. As for the ongoing labor dispute, the women say it's not over, but for now their focus is firmly on becoming World Cup champions. Melanie Nagy, CTV News, Vancouver.
And a reminder that Canada's next World Cup game against Australia will be on CTV and TSN on Monday. Our coverage begins at 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. Still ahead, a remarkable resurrection. The tiny worms behind a big scientific breakthrough. They've been on ice for 46,000 years. Ancient worms that had been dormant in the permafrost have been revived by scientists. CTV's John Villarreal has more on the fascinating find and what may be the oldest creatures of their kind.
The remarkable discovery was made in Siberia, deep down in the permanently frozen soil. Critters awakening after what may be a record-breaking sleep that began when woolly mammoths and Neanderthals roamed the planet.
It's not a miracle, but it's kind of a super fascinating finding to suddenly see live, living animals crawling out of a piece of soil that has been deep frozen for 46,000 years.
Specifically, the worms were found near the Kolyma River in northeastern Siberia, in a fossilized burrow made by ancient gophers. Nearby frozen plant matter was carbon dated to be 46,000 years old. Scientists took the worms and put them in a petri dish, and not only did they start moving again, they had babies.
And it's pretty amazing what nature can do when you put it in extreme circumstances.
Some drawing comparisons with science fiction movies, where spacefaring humans are frozen so they can survive long trips, and wondering if the tricks used by these worms could be replicated, worms that make a kind of sugar.
Which is what this one does, produce this kind of sugar called trehalose that helps its tissue survive the freezing conditions without being damaged.
Other variants of the worms, called nematodes, are found all over the earth. It was previously thought they could only survive frozen for a few dozen years. Now it seems they could lay dormant for tens of thousands of years, raising some worries about other critters and ancient viruses potentially re-emerging as global warming melts more glaciers and permafrost.
Of course, they could have their own gut microbiome, and maybe there could something dangerous for humans in there, but I don't think so right away.
Prehistoric worms that are the ultimate survivors. Jonathan Avelli-Rouse, CTV News, Toronto.
There was a rather bizarre scene in Arizona today. A Tesla ended up in a pool after crashing into the backyard of a Phoenix home. The driver somehow managed to escape unharmed. No word on what led to the crash. After the break, resolve redefined. The Canadian bodybuilder inspiring millions. We leave you tonight with the inspirational story of a young Ontario man who's taking his passion for fitness to another level. In only 7 months, Kyle Landi has become one of the only bodybuilders in the world with Down syndrome. CTV's Heather Wright has his story.
Good. Come on. Push through.
On most days, you can find Kyle Landi here at the gym, working out.
I like to cardio, abs, back.
The Milton, Ontario native has a passion for fitness and has turned that into a career.
Mid-January, Kyle was in the bedroom one night as we're going to bed, and he says, "Hey, I have a great idea." I said, "Yeah, what's that?" He says, "I want to be a bodybuilder."
And like any 23-year-old, Kyle also asked for a TikTok account to document his journey.
Good.
They uploaded this video of Kyle doing pull-ups in Las Vegas and went to bed. The next day, it had over 1 million views.
We get to inspire a lot of other people in similar situations with whether it be Down syndrome or other disabilities.
And so Kyle and his family began sharing his quest to become one of the world's first bodybuilders with Down syndrome.
There you go.
Kyle began working with trainer Cody Amy in January. He's already won his first competition and has even met Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He has a passion for lifting, right? When you have that passion for lifting, it's easy to be able to help and, put that person in the right direction because he just loves to train.
A love that started when Kyle was just 7 years old, working out with his mom.
He would just come down and mimic what I was doing, so I got him his own little weights.
Muscle strength in people with Down syndrome can be reduced by as much as 50% compared to those without a disability. Kyle was born premature with a congenital heart defect, and his parents say they see the dedication their son has and the confidence he's gained through bodybuilding.
His communication skills have improved, his interpersonal skills have improved.
And with his growing platform, Kyle is inspiring people around the world.
Even if you have a disability, do the best you can at whatever you can. Get physical.
Heather Wright, CTV News, Burlington, Ontario.
That's it for us tonight. For Omar and everyone in the CTV National Newsroom, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Have a great weekend.